Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today Scotty and I are here to unbox another one of the wonderful Commander Masters precon master decks, and today we are going to have a look at the Planeswalker Party. Thank you so much, Scotty, for that introduction. So as we continue on our journey to discover all the decks that were introduced in this Commander Master expansion, this is our third one of the Commander decks that we are reviewing. We've already done the Eldrazi Unbound and the Sliver Swarm, so now we're looking at the Planeswalker Party. As usual, these ones are a bit more expensive than the average. Depending on where you find them, it could be much more expensive. And yeah, they're supposed to be a premium kind of deck, and so far it's been a series of mixed feelings, really. Now, if you're new to our series, first off, welcome. But also, what we usually do in this kind of reviews, we look at the precon and see the cards that are inside, the synergy with all the cards with the commander proper, and give you a score out of 10 of how good really this commander deck can be. And that's basically it. And then in a later video, we try and take the most popular decks and upgrade them to their full potential and give you a full list of all the possibilities that you can use to upgrade all of the new decks. So without further ado, this is Commodore Guff and the Planeswalker Party. This is going to be an interesting one, as it's supposed to be a Planeswalker centered deck. As usual, we'll have a look at the back and we'll see that box that contains 100 card deck, which is the normal commander deck, out of which only 10 cards are the new ones. Then you get a deck box, 10 tokens, a foil-etched display commander thick, and then a life wheel, a strategy insert, and a reference card, and also a collector booster sample pack with 3 cards. One is going to be a token and 2 are going to be special frame, 1 rare or mythic, and another one uncommon foil board. So without further ado, let's have a look and break into the Planeswalker Party. As usual, these decks are printed in Belgium. Of course, we are in the UK and this is where you get the decks printed here. So that's better for us because it tends to have less of the bending of the US printed cards and decks. Now it says here a Planeswalker team up centuries in the making, which is fairly fun. Okay, and then such we'll have the inside of the deck, et voila. We have Commodore Guff with the cutout cardboard tokens or cut up cardboard counters here. And then you get the deck proper. And inside the deck, you'll get a little paper. You'll get a little bit of an insert to explain to you what the deck is about, how Commander is usually played, and also a little bit of lore about Commodore Guff. So here you can pause if you'd like, but this is the Planeswalker Party, and then you have Commodore Guff on the back here. And I really like these. They give you a little bit of fluff, a little bit of detail about the deck, and it's always nice, and a little bit of lore. And then inside deck box, you'll get the life wheel counter, you'll get the tokens and the thick commander, you get the proper deck and the Commander Masters SAM. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at the sample pack first and see what we get inside. And yeah, so first is going to be the token, then we're going to get the foil, or not. This is the Steel Shaper Gift. So this is the rare borderless, and it's the sorcery. Search your library for an equipment card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Very, very good card for equipment decks. And then you get, wow, Commander Tower foil. This is nice. I think this is worth a little bit. That's very, very nice. Yeah, 2 decent cards, I think. That's actually pretty nice. And then we have a look at the commander and the tokens. And this one I'll remove it from the plastic wrap, because in the last one I forgot to remove it from the plastic wrap before reading it. So Commodore Guff is a 5 loyalty planeswalker, and it costs 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white. And at the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target planeswalker you control. Then you +1 the loyalty to create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap to add 1 red mana. Spend this mana loyalty to cast a planeswalker spell. And for -3, you draw X cards, and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control, and of course he can be your commander. So that's interesting. It's a very interesting commander if you think about it. You get to cast your other planeswalkers quicker because of this little ability here. Granted, it doesn't add any of the other 2 mana that you need for Commodore himself, but I would reckon there's going to be a lot of Planeswalkers that could use this red mana. And then, yeah, you just deal damage to each opponent, which is very nice. It's not just one opponent, but it's each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you control. So depending on how this deck will be, we will see how powerful this commander can get. And next up, you get a wall, defender and flying, 0/4, and a core ally. That's nice. It's a 1/1. Then we get a dragon with flying, 4/4, and another core ally. Oh, a Giant Steadfast makes a return, and then a wizard, which is the token of the wizard that Commodore Guff creates. Chandra Awakened Inferno makes a return, and then a wizard token, of course. Chandra Torch of Defiance is in here. That's very nice. Then we get Narset of the Ancient Way. This is kind of spoilers, actually, unfortunately. Elspeth Sound Champion. And we get a soldier token and a servo, a soldier token and an ogre, okay, and a soldier token and another ogre. Okay, so I hope there's more than 4 or 5 Planeswalkers, because then there'll be another Eldrazi Unbound Carfuffle. So let's have a look at the deck proper. We will be opening it, hopefully, here. And here we go. This is Commodore Guff in all its wonderful glory. Very beautiful foiling, I must say. I love how the red just comes off the pages really wonderfully. And then we'll have a look at the general of this deck. And the general is Leori Spark Touch Hunter. It's a 3/3 elemental cat that costs 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white. It has flying and vigilance, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose a Planeswalker type. Until the end of turn, whenever you activate ability of a Planeswalker of that type, copy that ability. You may choose new targets of the cup. So this is going to be very, very strong, actually, because then, yeah, you just say, I don't know, I'm say Teferi, and then you can just copy a Teferi ability. That's really, really strong and very synergistic. I like that. Sometimes you get generals that are kind of like, oh, you can take the deck this way or that way. This one just synergizes with the main commander, so that's nice. And let's have a look at the top 10 new cards. No, I'm joking. Now, this is the 10 new cards of the deck. This is Vanguard, the Diplomat, as a 2/4 human cleric with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you or a Planeswalker you control, you draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts this second spell each turn, you draw a card. Extremely good card for this kind of deck in general. You just get to draw basically almost an extra card each turn. So that's a very, very good card. Then we get Gatewatch Beacon, which is an artifact. Gatewatch Beacon enters battlefield with 3 loyalty counters. It costs only 3. You tap to add 1 white. And whenever a Planeswalker enters the battlefield on you control, if the beacon has loyalty counters on it, you may move a loyalty counter from it to a Planeswalker. Okay, that's interesting. So if you can proliferate, I don't know if you, I would hope that you can proliferate with this deck, because it would make sense. But if you can proliferate it, this is going to be really good. But anyway, whenever you play a Planeswalker, it comes with an extra loyalty counter on top, should you wish it. So that's really nice for a Planeswalker deck in general. And then we have Onake Oathkeeper, which is a 0/4 ogre spear that costs 2. Creatures can't attack Planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 generic for each creature they control that's attacking a Planeswalker you control. So this is kind of like a Pendrell Vale land, sort of, for attackers, or kind of like a little bit of a moat. And it's really, really nice. And then for 6, you can exile him from your graveyard and return target Planeswalker card from graveyard to the battlefield. That's not bad. It's not super strong, but it's not bad, because in the end, you can just, if it's in your graveyard and it has died for whatever reason, you can just return for 6 a Planeswalker should you not have any other means to do so. I like the first ability more. It's a good defense, actually. Then we get Teo, Geometric Tactician, which is a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. It costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 0/4 wall creature token with Defender and Flying, which is really good because, again, your Planeswalkers want to be doing stuff and you want to be able to defend them as much as you can. So, again, you have protection, and kind of a deterrent of diplomacy. Like, hey, if you're not going to attack me, I'm not going to draw an extra card. And then for +1 loyalty, you and a target opponent each draw a card. That's okay. I don't really like giving my opponents draw card effects, but that's fine. Then -2, choose left or right until next turn. Each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the last chosen direction and Planeswalkers controlled by that opponent. Okay, that's not bad, actually. It's a bit of a defense. I don't mind it. Let's just say I don't mind it. There are better Planeswalkers overall, for sure, but it's a little defender and I don't mind it at all. Then we get Spark Shaper Visionary, which is a 0/5 human wizard that costs 3. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, choose any number of target planeswalkers you control. Until the end of turn, they become 3/3 blue bird creatures with flying, hexproof, and whenever this creature deals combat to a player, cry 1. This is not bad actually, because it transforms your planeswalkers into creatures. One of the main problems with planeswalkers is that you're just waiting to either get to the ultimate or slowly build up to stuff. This makes them into flying creatures, and if your opponents, one of your opponents or more than one of your opponents, don't have any flying creatures to defend, it can make the planeswalkers quite annoying. Vronos Mask Inquisitor is a 5 loyal legendary planeswalker that costs 5. You can +1 loyalty for up to 2 other target planeswalkers you control phase out at the beginning of the next end step, which means that they are defended up until you come back into your turn, which is amazing. So if you have 2 planeswalkers to protect, this is really, really, really good. Granted, you cannot protect him as it's other, but it's not bad. It's really good actually. And then for each opponent, return up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls to its owner's hand. That's very strong. And then -7, target artifact you control becomes a 9/9 construct artifact creature and gains vigilance, indestructible, and the creature can't be blocked. This is very good because it's not gonna take too long to get to -7, especially if you have any ways to proliferate or to bring in more counters on your loyalties. So yeah, this is definitely a very, very good planeswalker. Then we have Chandra, Legacy of Fire, and I love how the little flame is just coming out just over the Ulf. This is a 3 loyalty planeswalker that costs 5. At the beginning of your end step, Channel Legacy of Fire does X damage to each opponent where X is the number of planeswalkers you control, which is really, really nice because it's basically the Commodore Guff ability minus the fact that you don't need to minus it, and it's at each of your end steps, so that's really strong. Then you can +1 to add 1 red mana for each planeswalker you control, so that's very good. That's already 2 ways to add red mana, so that's very nice. I would reckon that this deck, the way that it works, is going to use a lot of spells like instants, sorceries, etc. to keep your planeswalkers protected while you do your stuff, and I would reckon this mana is going to be used, okay, you can use it for some planeswalkers, but also for the spells to defend. Then for 0, remove a loyalty counter from any number of permanents you control, and then exile that many cards from the top of your library. You may play them this turn. It's not a bad effect, that last one. It's actually good if you need to draw, and you can select however many you want to do, so that's always good. Oh, this is another one of those that's a bit more on the expensive side, not exceedingly expensive, but it's good. Guff Rewrites History is an instant that costs 3. For each player, choose target non-enchantment, no-land permanent that player controls, and those permanents owners shuffle them into their library, and then each player who controls one of those permanents exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile a non-land card, then put the rest at the bottom of the library on the border, and each player may cast a non-land card exile without paying its mana cost. So that is really, really good. It's a forced, like, you know, it's not like you may choose, you have to choose. So for each player you choose, and because it would be extremely strong if you just say, okay, so it's just one player, I don't want to give the advantage to all 3 players. Maybe one of them doesn't have that many strong cards, it just has a token or whatever. So this is a bit of a gamble and double-edged sword. I really don't like this one, unfortunately, because it's too much of a gamble. What if, I don't know, they get a Dark Steel golem or a platinum angel or a huge creature? That's something that I don't want to give for free to them. Then we have Jaya's Phoenix. Is a 3/3 Phoenix with flying haste that costs 5. When it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, copy the next loyalty ability you activate this turn. When you activate it, you may choose new targets for it, and whenever you cast a planeswalker spell, you may return this card from graveyard to the battlefield because it's a Phoenix. Very good one, actually. Very, very good synergy with planeswalkers. This is something that I would keep. Ajani Steadfast, of course, has it been upgraded to Mythic, or was it? Oh no, because it's the first Ajani. Okay, so it's a 4 loyalty planeswalker, costs 4 +1 until the end of turn. Up to 1 target creature gets +1 and gains first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. And then -2, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. This second one is going to be super strong. First one is going to be strong, but I don't reckon you're going to have... It depends on the amount of creatures you have. If it's even with the planeswalkers, then it's going to be really good. If it's going to be like 90% planeswalker, then it's going to be less. And then for -7, you get an emblem with, if a source would deal damage to you or a planeswalker you control, prevent all but one of that damage. Very, very good planeswalker. Happy to see it make a return. Then we get Deploy the Gatewatch, which is a 6-cast sorcery, and that's the first sorcery that we've seen. You get to look at the top 7 cards of your library to put up to 2 planeswalker cards from among them onto the battlefield. They put the rest on the bottom of the library with any random order. So this is a very, very strong spell, but you need to ramp to it. Of course, you already saw 2 ways to ramp to, and yeah, the little wizards are going to help towards that. So I don't think this is actually a bad one, given that fact. Same thing for Elspeth Sun Champion. I know this one, usually it's a very expensive one, but because you can ramp to it slowly, I've only seen 2 cards that can do that, but one of them is our commander. You can definitely get away with it. It's a 4 loyalty planeswalker. You create 3 1/1 soldier token, which is not bad with the Johnny. And then for -3, destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, which is really, really good to board wipe the opponents, because as you can see here, so far there isn't a lot of 4 power creatures. So it's going to be really good for your side. And then you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying, so you can buff your little tokens and the other ones. Very, very nice. Gideon Yura, this is a classic and makes a return. This is a 6 loyalty planeswalker. They cost 5. During target opponent's next turn, creatures that player controls attack Gideon if able, and then destroy target tap creature for -2. That's not bad. And then for 0, until the end of turn, he becomes a 6/6 soldier that's still a planeswalker and prevent all damage will be dealt with him. This is a very classic way of Gideon, and I really like him. It is a bit expensive, and there are other Gideons out there that could be better, but it's a decent one. Then we get Norse Annex. Ooh, makes a return from the, what was it? Phyrexian OB1, I think, the precons. This is an artifact. It costs 3 generic and 2 Phyrexian white, and the creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless the controller pays 1 Phyrexian white for each of those creatures. Again, another protection spell. Very, very, very good. I like it. It's well thought out, actually. So far, anyway. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Oath of Gideon. This is a legendary enchantment. It costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 white core ally creature tokens, and then each planeswalker you control enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter to it. So this is really, really, really nice. You get to have a little bit of protection that you can buff up with other planeswalkers, and you can also get extra loyalty. As I said, it's not quite proliferate, but it's getting there slowly, and this is the first enchantment that we get. Next up, we have the Promise of Loyalty, which is a sorcery, costs 5. Each player puts a vow counter on creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Each of those creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. Very, very good board wipe, and it's very intelligent for this deck, so I'm really happy to see that. So far, it's not been bad at all, actually. I think this is the main board wipe if you don't count Elspeth, so we'll see. Semester's End makes a return for 6/7. It's a 4-cast instant. Exile any number of target creatures and planeswalkers you control at the beginning of the next end step. So next end step could be your next end step. Return each of them on the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, or loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. Very, very nice way to proliferate, and it's actually pretty intelligent. I like it. Urza's Ruinous Blast. This is a classic. You exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Very, very good board wipe removal, and I use it. Oh, wow. That's very nice. The Deep Glow Skate makes a return. This is a card that I use in my Atraxa Planeswalker Super Friends deck. It's a 3/3 fish that costs 5. When it enters the battlefield, you double the number of each kind of counter of any number of target permanents. Extremely, extremely strong card. Cannot stress this enough. That is key. Gisperlin is a 3 loyalty planeswalker. This is the original one. I like that they actually went with Johnny and Gideon and Jace, the original ones. Of course, there are better versions, like the Mind Sculptor is one of them, but still, I'm very happy with this. And this is a 3 loyalty, and for +2, and it only costs 3. Now for +2, each player draws a card, so that's a little bit annoying because each player, but it helps you. -1, target player draws a card, which is yourself. And then for -10, target player mills 20 cards. And I don't know how often you're going to be using the milling part, because I don't think this is the point of the deck unless you see somebody who really needs it. I think you're more going to use the second part or the first part if you're in trouble. Ooh, another Jace, Architect of Thought. It's a 4 loyalty planeswalker and it costs 4, and you can +1 if until your next turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks, it gets -1, -0 until the end of turn, so that's good for defense. -2, reveal the top 3 cards of your library, and an opponent separates those 2 cards in 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other under the bottom of your library in any order. So this is a factor fiction. And then -8, for each player, search that player's library for a long land card and exile it. Then that player shuffles and you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. Now this is one of the weaker ones that I've seen. I actually removed this one. It's not the best one so far. And yeah, there are better planeswalkers that you can put in, but still it's something. Then we get Jace Mirror Mage. Is a 4 loyalty planeswalker that costs 3. And it has kicker 2 generic, and when it enters battlefield, if it was kicked, you create a token of this card, except it's a non-legendary and starts with loyalty 1. And then you +1 to scry 2, which is really nice. And then for 0, you draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to the card's mana value from Jace. Yeah, very good card. If you know what's gonna be on top, you can just do this next turn, and then yeah, you're gonna lose 1, 2, or however many without killing it, or necessarily if you want to kill it, because the next card is gonna be amazing. Very good one, actually. I mean, there are better. Again, with all planeswalkers, we'll get to the end, we'll discuss it, but it's a very good one compared to the other, the Architect of Thought. The Oath of Jace is a legendary enchantment, costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. Very strong in a planeswalker deck, cannot stress that enough. Spark Double, okay, this is interesting. It's an illusion that becomes a copy, costs 4, it's a 0/0, enters the battlefield as a copy of a creature planeswalker you control, except it has an additional +1/+1 counter or loyalty, and it's not legendary. Very nice. Always very good to have a Spark Double if you're a planeswalker centered deck. Then we get the Blasphemous Act, which is a classic. You deal 13 damage to each creature. It costs 9, but you can pay 1 generic less for each creature onto the battlefield. I don't know that you're actually gonna be casting this as often, and there are better sorceries, so this might be one of those that we might want to remove. We get Chandra Awakened Inferno, the 6-coster that has 6 loyalty, cannot be countered. Each opponent getting an emblem at the beginning of your upkeep. This emblem deals 1 damage to you. I really like this one. If I'm not mistaken, this was Core 2020. I really like using this one in standard. And then for -3, it deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. Very good to remove a board of tokens or a board of little creatures. Extremely good. And then -X, it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker if a permanent dealt damage this way will die this turn, exile it instead. So extremely good removal. And then we get one of the best Chandras, Torch of Defiance, 4 loyalty that costs 4, +1 it, exile the top card of your library. You may cast this card. If you don't, Chandra deals 2 damage to each opponent, so that's extremely good for Commander. And then +1, you can add 2 red mana. Extremely good at seeing as how the cost of a lot of these is very high. And then -3, it deals 4 damage to target creature, which is extremely good because it keeps her alive still. -7, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target. Extremely good planeswalker. Absolutely something that you would need to keep in this deck, I believe. And I'm starting to go out of page, so I'll keep it here. Then we get Repeated Reverberation, which is an instant, costs 4. When you cast the next instant spell or a sorcery spell or activate loyalty abilities this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copies, so it's twice. That's not bad at all, actually. Now, of course, if you're copying Planeswalker, since they're legendary, you're not going to be able to do much. I'd rather honestly play a fork, but it could be good. I don't know that it's very good. It's good more for the abilities, so you can do more loyalty for a specific Planeswalker, so you can get to an ultimate quicker or to a better ability quicker, or you know, raise them up quicker. But there might be better cards to use than this. If not, keep this in. Also, there's not a lot of spot removals so far that I've noticed. We've had a few board wipes, but no spot removal at all. And let's see now. Scotty the Masterless is a 5 loyalty, 5 cost Planeswalker, and whenever a creature attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature, which is very, very nice because you get to create dragons with the +1 ability. Until the end of each turn, each Planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature and gains flying. So this is only until the end of turn, but it's not bad. And again, on -3 actually, you get to create an actual flying token that's a dragon, that's a 4/4, and there you can deal this damage. Now, if necessarily you don't want tokens, you don't want to be messing around with them, it's always nice to have them because you can do them right away. But if you don't want it, this is one to cut. Otherwise, I will keep it in. And here the Harbinger is a 4 loyalty Planeswalker that costs 4. For +2, you may discard a card. If you do, you draw cards, so you ramage. For -2, you exile an enchantment, a tapped artifact, or tapped creature, so that's nice. You exile them. It's a spot removal that I was looking for. It's a bit annoying that's on this, but it's okay. You can do it more often. Then for -8, you search your library for an artifact or creature, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle, it gains haste, and return your hand at the beginning of your next end step. Very, very good. I like it. It's not the best, but it's pretty decent. Then we get Narset of the Ancient Way, 4 loyalty Planeswalker that costs 4. You gain 2 life if you +1 it, and you add 1 of the colors of the commander and spend this mana only to cast a non-creature spell. So this is perfect, exactly what we wanted for our deck, and you start to see that there are a few sprinkled here and there mana abilities to cast more Planeswalkers, so that's well thought out. Then you -2 draw a card. When you -2 draw a card, then you may discard a card, and when you discard a non-land card this way, Narset of the Ancient Way deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or Planeswalker. So this is very, 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 very good card because you can just remove something that's really annoying, another spot removal kind of. -6s, so it's not too hard to do. You get an emblem. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage to any target. Very good card. I like it. Ooh, Enlightened Master Narset makes a return. 3/2 Human Wonk. This is a 6 caster and it's first strike and hexproof, and when it attacks, exile the top cards of your library. Until the end of turn, you may cast non-creature spells from among those cards without paying the mana cost. So this is an extremely, extremely good commander in general, and yeah, just to have it here, I mean, it makes sense with the cards. Ooh, and Oath of Teferi, another good card. Oath of Teferi is a legendary enchantment. It costs 5, and when it enters the battlefield, you exile target permanent you control, return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, and you may activate loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only one. So it allows you to double your abilities, and I guess with the Chain Veil you can do that even more. I love this in my decks, and in general it just resets Planeswalker, which is really, really nice. And the Chain Veil, there you go, there she is. See, that's what I was talking about. So the Chain Veil, 4 generic legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't activate a loyalty ability of a Planeswalker, you lose 2 life. Has to be your end step, so it's not unfair. And then for 4 generic, you tap. For each Planeswalker you control, you may activate 1 of its abilities once this turn, as though none of its abilities have been activated this turn. Of course, you want to first activate the ability and then do this, because otherwise you're wasting it, but it's extremely, extremely good, and definitely something that you have to keep in the deck. Nevinyrral Disc, this is a great board wipe. You just tap 1, tap it, and then destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, and it enters the battlefield tap. This is a classic. It's one of the first removals that I ever used. I used to love the original illustration. I don't know if it was Christopher Rush. Let me know in the comments below who did the original illustration, but yeah, very, very good card. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I mean, in the end, yeah, you can get rid of most of the stuff, but then again, if you look at it, your Planeswalkers are going to be staying on the table, so that's actually a pretty intelligent removal. Ooh, Silent Arbiter. Haven't seen this in a while. This one was for the Mirrodin block. Don't remember if it was Darksteel or Fifth Dawn. I think it was either one of the two. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Silent Arbiter is a 1/5 construct for generic. It's an artifact creature. No more than 1 creature can attack each combat. No more than 1 creature can block each combat. Very, very, very good way to funnel and protect your planeswalkers in general. Absolutely wonderful. Next, we have the Cascade Bluffs, which I really like. It allows you to filter any mana and get any combination of the two. I like this one, and it doesn't come into play tapped. One of the few lands that I've seen so far that doesn't come into play tapped. What the hell? Nice. I mean, of the rare ones. Anyway, Exotic Orchard makes a return. Frostboil Snarl makes a return as well. Makes sense. Again, I won't go too heavy into these lands because realistically, these decks are more the normal kind of decks, 3 colors. The ones that I criticized most with the lands were the previous 2 ones, which was the Eldrazi Unbound and the Sliver Swarm, because those necessarily need land. They absolutely must have the right lands. So for these ones, I'm a little bit more relaxed and loose. So Frostboil Snarl makes sense. Fury Karn Snarl makes sense as well. Karn's Bastion absolutely makes sense in this kind of deck. I was expecting it. Mobilized District as well is not a bad one. You get to create a citizen by paying 4. It still is a land, and this ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature planeswalker you control. So it can be easily there to protect your planeswalkers. This was in the War of the Spark introduced. Ooh, Mystic Gate. Wonderful, makes a return. I love it. I love these lands. I'm happy they brought them back. Port Town, okay. And this is one of the reveal lands. I like this one. It does necessitate that you have some basic lands, but I would reckon you will play some basic lands in this kind of deck because you only have 3 colors, I would hope. And then the Prairie Stream, okay, makes sense. Again, these lands you always want to play if you're playing a lot of basic lands. If you're not playing a lot of them, then you don't want them in the deck. Rugged Prairie makes a return. Beautiful. Sky Cloud expands. Okay, this is a mana fixer, very, very good. Temple of Enlightenment makes a return. Epiphany and Triumph, of course. Then we get some other creatures. Cartographer's Hawk that has flying 2/1, costs 2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player who controls more lands than you return it to its owner's hand. And if you do, you search your library for a plains card, you put it into battlefield tab, then shuffle. It's quite decent to get you a bit more ahead, or if you're catch up, let's say, if you're falling behind in lands or ahead of other 2 opponents. But realistically, it's one of those that you can remove here. Ooh, Path to Exile makes sense. Good spot removal. Kazul, the Tyrant of Cliffs. This is a 5/4 legendary ogre warrior. It's cost 5. When a creature an opponent controls attack, if you're the defending player, you create a 3/3 ogre token that, unless that creature controller pays 3 generic. So this is actually not bad because it allows you to create more bodies on the board, and it's not until the end of turn. It's a creature that I usually wouldn't care much about, but in a deck like this one, especially in a no super control-y deck like this one, depends on how you play it, but as a precon, it's not a super control-y one. It's not the way of instants and sorceries. Then this makes sense, and I would keep it here if you're going that way. Then we have an Arcane Signet. Felwar Stone makes sense, although this is one to remove if you have better artifacts to get yourself mana fixed. Soul Ring, Command Tower, Mirror Landscape, Reliquary Tower. This is quite a decent one, which is actually, I just realized you don't get any Reliquary Towers in the Sliver deck, which kind of don't make sense since you have so many ways to draw in there, but hey, oh. Grateful Apparition is a 1/1 that costs 2, Spirit Flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you proliferate. Very good way. It's a cheaper way to proliferate. Of course, you don't have green here, so you don't have doubling season or other ways that green has to proliferate, so you have to make do. There are some good proliferate cards from the Phyrexian All Will Be One set. Well, no, I don't think we'll be able to see them, but anyway. Orascos Explorer is a 2/2 scout, costs 2. When it's in the battlefield, you search your library for up to X planes card, where X is the number of players who control more lands than you. Okay, again, you're catching up to opponents. Again, this is something that I would remove if you have better stuff. Ooh, Swords of Plowshares. This is a new art. Yeah, it's a new art. I've never seen it before. Very, very nice. Spot removal. The Wanderer is also a great one. Prevent all non-combat damage that will be dealt to you and other permanents you control. And you -2 it, exile a creature with power 4 or greater. So this is great if you're playing against opponents that have huge creatures. Otherwise, it's kind of a meh, but you're hoping that at least the other one of the other 3 does if you're using him. Otherwise, you can just remove the Wanderer from the deck. And then Flux Channel is a 2/2 human wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you proliferate. Extremely good for the deck. Cannot stress that enough. Ooh, a Flog. This is Defender Flying 0/2 and costs 2. Permanent combat damage will be dealt 2 and dealt by Fog Bank. It's okay. It's a wall that allows for protection. I would remove it. There are better cards. Narset Parter Veils is a great Planeswalker to have in your deck. 5 loyalty, only costs 3. Each opponent cannot draw more than 1 card each turn, which is extremely good in Commander. Now with the One Ring and many other ways, the Palantir as well. -2, look at the top 4 cards of your library where you may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, put them in your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your library in a random order. Very good Planeswalker. Absolutely, I will keep. Thrumming Bird, 1/1 that costs 2, flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. So that's really good. You have ways to protect your Planeswalkers, but also ways to grow them. That's very nice. Sahili, Sublime Artificer, costs 3, 5 loyalty. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a servo artifact, creature token 1/1. -2, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact, the creature you control until the end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. I would remove this. You don't have a lot of artifact synergy, and there are better Planeswalkers. Then we get Wall of Denial. It's a 0/8 wall, costs 3, has Defender Flying and Shroud. It's okay. Again, it's nice to have walls to be able to protect you, but realistically, there are better ways to protect your Planeswalkers. And yeah, as I said, you can go in the way of spells a bit more than just creatures. Also, because all your removal is creature targeted, so you're going to be removing your walls as well. Finally, the Signets. Azurius Signet. That's very nice. This is something that's been lacking in the past few decks. Very good one. Ooh, Boros Signet, of course. Honor Warren Shaku. 3 generic artifact. You tap to add 1 generic, and then tap and untap legendary permanent you control. Can be one of these, and you can untap him. So definitely something really good in this deck, because yeah, you can just tap, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these after you've used their abilities, because remember, if they're tapped, you cannot use their abilities, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, you can just get more mana going. I like this. Is a Signet, wonderful. Wow, you also get a Talisman and Conviction, Creativity, Progress. Wow, this deck is value central for this slot. Very good, very well done. Wayfarer's Bubble as an artifact is 1 generic. For 2 generic and tap it, you sacrifice it and then search the library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. This is a classic. It's not bad actually, and I will keep it if you can use it. If not, there are better. Forge of Heroes. You tap it to add 1 generic and choose target commander that entered the battlefield this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature or loyalty, counter if it's a Planeswalker. This can be interesting with your commander for sure, but the problem is it just kind of dies once the commander is not in play. So yeah, kind of iffy. I don't know. Oh, Interplanet Beacon makes complete sense. Whenever you cast a Planeswalker, you get 1 life. You can tap 1 mana generic and then tap and add 2 mana of different colors, and you can use that only on Planeswalkers, so that makes good sense in this deck. Then we get Mystic Monastery, one of the fake triumphs, which I would swap out for the real triumph as soon as possible. And then we get 7 islands, 4 mountains, and 7 plains. So this was it now for our overview of the cards in the precon. And moving on to the review, I am pleasantly surprised at how good this precon is. You have sunspot removal, you have some board wipes, and of course you can't have too many. You have some of the best, if not the best in the color, enchantments that are legendary. Of course, you can always add better enchantments, but at least these ones make sense and they have synergy. Yeah, I mean, you have amazing artifacts. You have the talismans, you have the signet. This is great, honestly. And you have quite a decent amount of Planeswalkers, which is really nice. Some of them allow you to ramp, some allow you to remove stuff, some allow you to create some protection. The ones that only carry protection, maybe you can remove them for stronger Planeswalkers for sure. And then in the creature side, I'd say that this is kind of like maybe a little bit the weaker side. Of course, there are walls that I would definitely not keep. They're probably the ones that allow you to proliferate. These 3, I would, what is it, this, that, and that. Yeah, those allow you to proliferate. That's great. And then anything that allows you to put a strain on every opponent is a great one. So the Arbiter, Narset, Fire Double is really great. Deep Glow is really great. So yeah, like maybe like, I don't know, like 10% of these I would remove. So overall, this is a great little deck. And sadly enough, because I was really hoping that the other two decks would be at this point. I would give this a 7.5, hinging on an 8 out of 10. And the only reason why I go on an 8 is because there are some Planeswalkers that are not really that great. There could have been some enchantments better used, some better removal that wasn't that expensive. All the stuff that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the best ones, I'm talking about the average ones that you can put, or a bit better ones. So definitely fine. And then yeah, even the lands, they're not that bad. I mean, they're pretty decent and pretty standard. I really like it. Of course, I wasn't expecting for them to just keep the Mystic Monastery and you know, some of the temples I would have put for the price of the deck. I would have actually put here the Shocklands and at least a Triumph, but you know, this is why we are at a 7.5 and not at an 8. Definitely a great deck, and yeah, it's really interesting. I'm really happy for it. As I said, I really love playing Planeswalkers, and Atraxa is my first Commander deck that I ever made, so I really love it. And yeah, so make sure to stick around to the channel as we will be unboxing the last of the decks, the enchantment deck, that we'll be looking forward to it. And also make sure to stick around and check out all the upgrade videos for the most popular deck that we can manage to do. And yeah, other than that, thank you so much from Scotty and I. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps small channels like ours a lot. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little video. And until the next time, be good, be kind, have a good day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!